Hey, everybody. Give everybody a few minutes to pop in. We're streaming on Facebook and YouTube. Hopefully, that's the plan anyway. So if you're either of those places, hop into the chat. Should be able to connect with you that way. But I'm so excited to introduce you guys to the do-over. Hey, Janet. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here. Yep, as you get here, be sure to say hi and let me know you're here. Anyone who comments all night long, which this isn't going to go all night, I say that. I can't guarantee it won't. A lot of you have been with me enough to know that. But no, this is going to be a relatively brief one. But anybody who comments throughout the entire time, even though we're talking about the do-over tonight, we'll actually have a chance to win a copy of Plot Twist and some other goodies. Who knows what I'll throw in? I don't know. Let's see. So let's see who we've got here. Hello, Emily. Glad you're here. Hey, Joni. Hey, Missy. Janet, you love the cover. I'm so glad to hear that. If you guys are just popping in and you're like, hold on, I thought we were here to see the cover. How has someone already seen the cover? I have this first to know group that all you have to do is text me first to know. And then really, they're the first to know. So they got to see the cover about an hour ago. So if you want to text me in that, it's a little late this time to be the first to know. But you can go ahead. You'll be in on the next exciting news, whatever it may be. But my number is 970-387-7811. And you can just text me first to know, and then you'll be the first to know. Simple as that. But I'm glad you love the cover, Janet. I'm excited to talk about it some more. Hey, Joni, I'm so glad you loved Plot Twist. Thank you. I'm thrilled to know that. I'm really glad. Yeah, I'm in this weird little headspace right now of, Plot Twist just came out. What is today? The 28th, 2 weeks ago tomorrow, or 13 days ago. I can do the math if I have to. And so still very much in Plot Twist mode, but now I'm at the point where I can share this cover of the do-over, and I have to introduce you guys to the do-over. So it's almost like we're taking a little pause on Plot Twist, but at the same time, I will be giving away a copy of Plot Twist tonight. So, and an ironic sticker, which if you've read Plot Twist, you know that this song plays a big role in the book, for better or worse. And like I said, I'll probably throw in some other goodies. Who knows what you'll get if you win that. So, so anyone who comments all night long, you might win that. Emily said, please make it go all night. Your live videos are so fun. Thank you. I always have so much fun with you guys, and left to my own devices, I probably would go all night. So it's really good that, at a certain point, it's like must eat dinner. But I'm glad you have fun. I sure do too. Hey, Melissa, glad you're here, my friend. Emily says the cover is awesome. Spoiler alert. I love the green. I like that spoiler alert because that's just enough to intrigue someone if they don't know. Yeah. So we're going to see the cover of the do-over here in a little bit. I'm going to introduce you to the characters a little bit. Like I said, this isn't going to be a super long thing, but we're just going to this book doesn't come out till March, and it's actually still being written. No, it's written. It's still being edited. So things will be changed, and who knows what the final version will be like. We're not too far off from it, but there could be little changes here and there. So even the excerpt, I'm going to read a short excerpt tonight. Even that excerpt, I can't guarantee that will actually be in the final version of the book, but I tried to pick something that I thought was fairly safe and I think we'll be okay. I make no promises. Hey, Lydia, glad you're here. So Emily got the Plot Twist bookmark and signed book plate today. Awesome. And Joni did as well. I don't know if you got it today, but you got it. That's awesome. Thank you. And Joni, glad you're enjoying being the first to know. Again, text me, everybody, 970-387-7811, and you can be the first to know. Lydia said plot. Oh, I forget. Okay. I'm in StreamYard and I forget because I'm so used to in our normal book club on Facebook Live, I read people's comments so that everybody isn't having to keep track of everything. But I forgot that in StreamYard, I can do this. There we go. So now we'll start having a little more fun with that now that I'm remembering the tools that are at my disposal here. I'm so glad you didn't see the end coming. Genuinely, I've had so many people, like I saw a couple posts earlier today, actually, and someone said, and they weren't talking to me, they were talking to someone who had posted something about plot twist. And they said, yeah, but probably it's not a real plot twist. And I'm going to be so mad if it's just acting like there's a plot twist. And I don't always just jump into other people's conversations about my books, but in this case I did and just said, I promise you, there is a plot twist. That's not to say no one will ever see it coming. I can't guarantee that, but I think it's safe to say most people have not seen it coming. So I'm thrilled that that was the case with you, Lydia. Yes, Emily, Alanis Morissette's ironic. Has a big role in plot twists. So yeah, it's a recurring theme, in fact. So it's a fun one. Yay, Rochelle got your bookmark. Yay, I'm so glad. Vicky saying that she was reading and didn't see the text. So I had to go leave to look at the cover. You got yours too. Good. Yes. So the first to know people, you've already seen the cover. You've had the option to. I'm excited for you guys who haven't read Plot Twist yet to read Plot Twist. But tonight, except for the prize that will be given away at the end, tonight is, from this point on, is going to be about the do-over. And so the do-over, most authors that I'm talking to or that I'm in communication with and everything, like I haven't run across a lot of people that don't have a COVID book. We all kind of have one that we had to write when we weren't feeling very creative, maybe. And it was a little tricky when, things were just starting and everyone was in lockdown and all these different things. And yet deadlines were waiting for us. Well, yeah, the do-over was my COVID book. And I really wasn't sure where it was going to go. And it was one where I kind of started with, I think about 14 different plot lines and tried them all. And ultimately we figured out where it should land, and I'm thrilled with where it lands. But so I want to tell you guys a little bit about the story, a little bit about the characters. I'm not going to give spoilers. We're not going to, like I said, spend a ton of time, but yeah, we're going to do this thing. Get a couple more comments real quick before we kind of dive in. Going to start the audiobook of Plot Twist soon. Yes. Okay. You guys, I will talk about Plot Twist just a little more to tell you this, not to really talk about the book as much as to rave about the audiobook. Talon David, who, if you guys were at the Plot Twist launch party, she was one of our featured guests, and I loved getting to meet her and connect with her and introduce her to you guys. And I always listen to the audiobook of my books, which is always difficult to start because it's a weird thing, when you're hearing someone else read your work and you hear it a certain way in your head, and then you don't know if they'll say it the way you want it to be said and all of that. So far I've been very, very, very blessed with the audiobook narrators I've had for my books. Of course, I brag on Amy Lilly all the time, who, let's see, that one is a Selah Award for Hadley Beckett's Next Dish for Best Audiobook, because Amy Lilly's amazing. But this one was Talon David, and it was her first audiobook. You guys, this audiobook was amazing. Like, it sounds so stupid to say it because it's my book, but honestly, it's about Talon, not me. I wept. There were parts where I wept. She did such an amazing job. Yeah, I laughed out loud too. It wasn't like it just became depressing, because no, she captured all the emotions. She felt the right things and she conveyed those emotions, and I loved every minute of it. So yes, if you're an audiobook listener, check out the Plot Twist audiobook. Amazing. Talon did an amazing job. I absolutely loved it. Oh, Emily, that's so sweet. I love getting to text with you guys. I really do. And yeah, if you haven't texted me yet, text me 970-387-7811. You'll get a couple of, like, an automated thing that you have to reply to in order to say, yes, I really do want to do this. But it's just like normal texting after that. And every text will just be me. So I love chatting with you guys that way. And again, if you text first to know to that number, 970-387-7811, you'll be the first to know. The first to know people have already seen the cover of the Do-Over, as is evidenced by Kim, who is saying the cover is adorable and she loves the green. How does she know? Because she's the first to know. Fun, right? My sister just wants her comment to be on the screen. So there we go. One thing I do want to point out here on StreamYard, I have this streaming to a few places. We have it going to my YouTube channel. We have it going to my author page on Facebook. But then it's also going to the book club closest to my house, which is my reader group. Words fail me sometimes. Words are hard. So if you are watching this in book club, because we're a group and we're a private group, unless you give like permission, your name won't show on the comments that you give me, but I'll still show, the comments will still show. I hope that makes sense. So, but you have to get permission. I don't know how to do that, but you can also go to it on YouTube or whatever, or I don't know. We'll figure this all out together. But Emily asked, do I feel like listening to my audiobooks? I'm more critical of my books. Oh, shouldn't be, because I'm amazing. Well, that's very sweet. I don't know about that part, but I appreciate it. Yes, I am more critical. Like, the sign of when the audiobook narrator is doing an amazing job for me, though, not a job for me, to me, the sign of the audiobook narrator doing a great job is when I stop critiquing my work, because my natural vein is to critique it. Like, I'm like, oh, why do I say that so much? Good grief, Bethany, stop talking about Robert Redford. No, I've never actually given myself that critique, nor shall I ever. But sometimes, yeah, I get very critical. But then when we reach that point with the narrator in the audiobook where I stop critiquing because I'm caught up in the story, there we go. And I definitely reached that point very much with Amy Lilly reading Hadley Beckett's Next Dish, and Talon David reading Plot Twist. Suzanne Elise Freeman read Wooing Katie McCaffrey, and she did a great job too. That one was a trickier audiobook, I think, because there's so many men in that book. So there's a lot of male voices. And so I don't know. She did a great job, though. Nothing against her. Okie dokie. Let's see. Yes, you'll like it. You'll like it. Check it out. Anastasia says that Plot Twist is on her TBR pile. I hope you enjoy it when the time comes. And yeah, Sue, definitely do. It's fun. And Talon did, I'm sorry, I'm just raving about Talon David because she did such an amazing job with the audiobook. But she did this great this great, I don't know, I felt like I was listening to like radio theater almost. I mean, it was still audiobook reading, but she did such a good job of capturing the different emotions and just enough different voices to where I knew instantly when she was talking who she was, especially Fiona. I told her this. I'm like, her Fiona, who is Olivia Ross's best friend in Plot Twist, her Fiona is amazing. And I just was like, yes, that's Fiona. It was great. Okay, I have to stop talking about the Plot Twist audiobook because we're supposed to be talking about the do-over. Okay, because the do-over does have a gorgeous cover. It really does. And I can't wait to show it to you guys. Here's a question about the do-over. And this is a perfect segue into our do-over conversation. So Janet is asking what celebrity is the main inspiration for the do-over, because correct, Gerard can't be for all the books. Although, did I show you guys, or did you see the post? I know I shared it in a post, but I'll go ahead and show you again. The gift that my editor for Plot Twist gave me on launch day is this mug. How amazing is that? But no, you're correct. Gerard cannot inspire every book. So let me go ahead and introduce you to my hero. Actually, we're going to start with my heroine because the heroes are always more fun. So let me introduce you to McKenna Keaton. My inspiration for McKenna Keaton physically is an actress named Jemima Rooper. And I'll show you a picture of her here. If you've seen Lost in Austin, she played the lead character in Lost in Austin. But yeah, so I have her, she is in my mind as McKenna. And McKenna is very much, you can actually see, oops, wrong way. McKenna's on my board back there too. This is my do-over board. But McKenna is a 38-year-old top attorney in Manhattan. She's from Durham, North Carolina, but she went to Princeton in New Jersey and then NYU Law School. Her family, the Keatons, had lived in New York for a little while when she was a kid, and New York kind of became her heart. And so basically the first chance she had to get out, she went back to New York. And she has a wonderful family, but she's never felt that her family really understands her. She is very career focused, single, no kids, and that's exactly how she wants it. You know, it's not like she has been unlucky in love. It's like she doesn't have time for love. She doesn't have an interest in love. She has goals, she has dreams, and she's continually working on them. So the whole book begins though with she walks into a meeting, into the boardroom at Wallis, Monroe, and Burkhead. Sorry, this book's still relatively new, so I'm still learning this book. Some of these things were still just written like weeks ago at this point. But Wallis, Monroe, and Burkhead, where she is a junior partner, and she walks into the boardroom of a meeting that she's been called to, and she's expecting to be made senior partner. And instead, she is put on leave while an investigation is conducted because she is told that she's suspected of misappropriation and embezzlement within the company. And obviously, that was not the plan for our McKenna. So yeah, so that is McKenna. And I love her. She's very different. She's a very different heroine for me. She in some ways, she probably reminds me the most of Katie McCaffrey, as far as just a little bit of personality, but not with Katie's baggage. She has different baggage, but she's very, businesslike, very focused, very driven in that way. And she doesn't really have, there's still a lot of pop culture in this book, fear not. You would think I had been abducted if there wasn't, but it's not the same. It's not that Sarah Hollenbeck, Olivia Ross kind of, constant think in movies kind of character. She's not really that. And so, yeah. And the thing that really made McKenna really special to me also as I was writing her is, since she was like 11 years old, I think it is. And when she kind of had to, well, they were in New York. Life was wonderful. It was her and her parents, Scott and Annie, and her sister, her older sister, Erica, and living in New York, loving life, perfect life as far as McKenna was concerned. And her mom was actually following her dream of getting to act in New York, and was actually really close to maybe achieving that dream. And then she got pregnant again with Erica and McKenna's little sister Taylor, who's like 11 years younger than McKenna. And they moved back to Durham. And as far as McKenna's concerned, that ruined her life. And so that's, she's a kid and has to work through a lot of that as she gets older. But all that to say, McKenna struggles with not being in control and actually starts suffering panic attacks at a pretty young age, and gets help from therapists through the years. And we don't really dwell on that a lot. But it's something that's very much in her past. And then as this, but something she's gotten control of, which control is very important to McKenna. And then she reaches this point of everything is out of her control all of a sudden, and having to move back to Durham when she's put under investigation and suspended because, she can't afford her Upper West Side brownstone. While she's not being paid, and not knowing what the future holds and all these different things. And so she moves back to live with her parents for a little while at the age of, 38. She's on the verge of losing her career and her home and everything. And the panic attacks kind of rear their ugly head again. And so it was really a wonderful, wonderful thing to write her. And kind of just, it was hard at times to get in her head, and I love her. I love her so much. She's, I just love her. She's strong and she's independent, and she's misguided in some points, not by following her career, but some of that needing control and different things. She has to kind of get wrap her arms around that and kind of figure out where her life is going. And so when she goes back to Durham, she comes across an old friend who wasn't really a friend. It's like he was kind of a friend. She didn't really do friends a lot in high school because she was so focused on working her way towards valedictorian. But she had two major competitors for valedictorian. One was Jared Pearson, who is now Erica's husband, so her brother-in-law, and the other was Henry Blumenthal. And we're going to meet Henry in just a second, but let's get caught up on some comments real quick. Carol asked, and this has nothing to do with the do-over, but do I get to audition audiobook readers? I get to have some say. It's like my publisher does an amazing job of really sorting it out, and and there are discussions of the characters and so what I'm looking for and all those different things, but then the way it works or has worked so far is because I have another audiobook coming out next month. In case you guys don't know, The Secret Life of Sarah Hollenbeck will be released on audiobook for the first time, so I'm excited about that. But I got 3 options basically, and demos of them recording things, and I get to put, have my say ultimately the publisher, they're the one putting all of that into this. So, but I do have a say, and I will say Talon David is who I wanted when I got the options, and it was the right choice across the board, no doubt about it. Emily, I love that. Thank you. Well, first of all, I love the name McKenna too. I liked that name, McKenna Keaton. I had fun. I always have fun picking out names. But saying, I love that your heroines are older. It's so nice to read about older heroines. My heroines have gotten older as I've gotten older. But I mean, they were never very young. Sarah Hollenbeck was like 34, which is, roughly the age I was. I was probably 33, 34 when I wrote Secret Life of Sarah Hollenbeck. Katie was mid-30s. Hadley was mid-30s. I really like that. And of course, Olivia Ross, for those of you who haven't read Plot Twist yet, we actually go with her from 30 to 40. So McKenna being 38 to 39 in this book, I just think it's so interesting. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is great material for 20-somethings, and there are great authors writing that. That's great. I don't need to be one more voice to that, because that's not what I feel like really interests me. It may sometime. I'm not saying it never will, but so far I love, it's like I know I know what it's like to be in my 30s, and I'm beginning to know what it's like to be in my 40s. I'll be 42 next month. And so, yeah, very much. I find that interesting when you've lived a little more life and you have a lot more perspective and all of that. So I'm glad you enjoy that. Monica loves the cover. Okay, if you're just joining us, I have not shown the cover here yet, but certain people, including Monica, are saying that they love the cover, that they've seen the cover, because my First to Know group, who texts me First to Know to the number 970-387-7811, they're the first to know. They've already seen the cover. So if you want that to be you, text First to Know to 970-387-7811, and next time you'll be the first to know. And some of you I'm only seeing as Facebook user. And if that's the case, I apologize. So if it's because you're in book club and there's some permissions thing that has to happen if you're in the group. So I'm sorry about that. If you're watching in book club closest to my house, maybe tell me your name when you comment, and then I'll know who you are, because I think I know all the book clubbers. But yeah, otherwise I'm not seeing your name. I'm sorry. I'm still sorting out some of this StreamYard stuff. I'm just glad you're here, Angie, and I'm excited to be telling you about the new project. And if you guys don't know Angie, I love Angie and Steady On, and I'm going to be chatting in August. I have no idea what date, but I have it written down. I know it. I just don't know it off the top of my head. But we're going to be talking about Plot Twist, so watch for that. Hello, Verbose Juice. That is my son. You guys should follow him. He's a rapper. He's awesome. Okay, so I am with you, Lydia. Yeah, like I said, I love the more middle age. So I'm glad you like that too. I love hearing your all's feedback about that. Look at that. So Lydia says, no regrets on texting. If you're debating texting me, do it now. Thank you, Lydia. I appreciate that. So, oh, hey, Marilyn. Glad you're here. Okay, so I'm going to shift now into, I said this wasn't going to be super long, and yet, then I just talk and talk. It's what I do. So you met McKenna. I told you a little bit about McKenna. And McKenna, like I said, goes back to Durham. And while there, she is spending time with her family, but then she finds out that this old friend from high school, Henry Blumenthal, is in town. What she did not know is she actually knows Henry, like in the modern day, but she didn't realize it. Like, she had not thought of Henry in 20 something years, but who she thinks about all the time is Hank Bloom. And Hank Bloom is up and coming, hottest in every way, I will say, hottest documentarian on planet Earth. Basically, he's, Carrie Winfrey's new book, Very Sincerely Yours. She talks about how her character is kind of hot Mr. Rogers. I've kind of been stealing that a little. I didn't mean to steal it. I'd been saying it, but now she's said it more, like she has said it first publicly. And so I will steal it and say, I have hot Ken Burns in this. So imagine younger, hot Ken Burns, but that sort of career of, winning every award, respected by everybody, PBS marathons, telethons, I mean, all this different stuff. So I love the name Henry too. But yes, you love the name Henry. So I want to introduce you to Henry. He was inspired by, as far as his look, sort of by an actor named Johnny Flynn. Do y'all know Johnny Flynn? That's Johnny Flynn. Here, let's make him big for a moment. He was Mr. Knightley in the 2019 or 2020 Emma. He's one that I'm like, in every situation, I don't necessarily see it in him, but yes, Emma. Okay, this is Facebook user. I don't know who said this. I love you, whoever you are, though. Ken Burns is pretty steamy, just as is, right? Yeah. Hot Ken Burns, hot Mr. Rogers. That's what we do. But so this is Henry, and he's very, in high school, he was a total nerd. He was shy. Like I said, he and McKenna were, so he and McKenna and Jared were the main competitors for valedictorian, but really Jared kind of didn't want to be valedictorian because he's so shy. He didn't want to make a speech. And so it was really down to McKenna and Henry. And honestly, Henry probably would have won valedictorian, except his mom remarried. His dad had died in the 8th grade his dad was not in the 8th grade. Henry was in the 8th grade. And his mom remarried, and they moved to Oregon from Durham. So at that point, McKenna is the valedictorian, and it would have been head-to-head to the end otherwise. So he's brilliant. And then when we see him again, which the excerpt that I'm going to read is actually the first time that we see him. And I'll read that here in just a few minutes. But he is cute. And the 97 version is great. I really love the 2020 version. I really did. So that's him. And, McKenna talks about his scars, and he's this rough and rugged, and he looks like he stepped out of an Eddie Bauer catalog. And, he's just this adventurer, dreamy sort of adventurer man, which is not the Henry she knew at all. So we get to, get to know Henry in that way. And I love him. I love Henry. I will say, and I know that some of you who like in reader group and book club and different things, you may, okay. Facebook comment about Ken came from my other half. So that was my husband, apparently, who said, Ken Burns is pretty steamy, just as is. I knew I loved that person, whoever said that. I do. I, in fact, love that person most of all. So Henry is, I love the dynamic between Henry and McKenna. They are both workaholics for completely different reasons, which I won't go into because that's a big part of kind of figuring out their characters and who they are with each other, especially. But Henry's cool. Henry's cool. I mean, I still haven't wrapped my mind around, like, during content edits, my editor and I mean, we just kind of crushed on Henry more than I care to admit. It is, Henry's lovely, and he's a good guy, and he's brilliant, and he's supportive, but he's not perfect. And I almost feel like he's, if I were looking at which of my previous characters is he like, I mean, he's no one. Henry is Henry. Henry Blumenthal is unlike any hero I've written, but he's got little elements of, I mean, he's he's a little bit of Will Whitaker from William Katie McCaffrey, in that he's still a little bit of a dork, but like in a cool way. He's a little bit of Max Kavanaugh. I'll say this. He's all the best parts of Max Kavanaugh. Perfect time for that question. Emily, is Henry my favorite hero I've written? Yes. Yes, he is. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know if I was pretty sure no one would ever replace Max Kavanaugh in my mind, and in my heart. But Henry did it. Henry did it. He's my favorite, hands down. And it doesn't take away my love of Max, doesn't take away my love of Will, doesn't take away my love of Ben Delaney, doesn't take away my love of Liam Howard. But Henry Blumenthal, my goodness. So I can't wait for you guys to meet him. Hey, Caitlin, glad you're here. No apologies necessary for being late. I'm just glad you're here at all. And this is earlier than our normal book club time, so I know I'm probably throwing everybody for a loop too, but again, I do what I do. I'm not predictable. What do you know? No, but I'm just glad you're here, Caitlin. I'm glad you love him already, Melissa. He's worth loving. And I loved writing these dynamics of Henry and McKenna having known each other 20 years ago. Really from like middle school all the way through midway through senior year. And then the people they become, which McKenna doesn't really change all that much in those 20 years. I mean, she's still focused on what she was always focused on. Henry changes big time. His brilliance is still his brilliance, but and his kindness is still his kindness, but he's not really the shy guy. He's not, he changes so much. And so Emily says she needs to pre-order the do-over. It can be done. In fact, I have little banners. Hold on. Add the do-over to your Goodreads list today. Pre-order is already available at select retailers. So I'm going to go ahead, now that I've introduced you to Henry and I've introduced you to McKenna, I'm going to read a little bit of an excerpt. And this is short, and if you don't like spoilers, don't worry about it. There aren't spoilers in here. It's more just an opportunity to get to know their personalities a little bit, and to kind of see this first meeting of these two characters. I love second chance love stories too, Valerie. I really, really do. And first one I've written, right? Yeah. I mean, Will and Katie, kind of, but not. Oh, Liam and Olivia, kind of. But as far as true, yes, this is my first. Whatever. And you guys are adding it on Goodreads. That's awesome. Love it, you guys. My sister's turning the sound down because she doesn't want spoilers, which, as we all know, she's never going to read it anyway. So it's just an excuse. But so in this scene, this is about like page 50 in the book. So I am kind of picking us up in the action here. But again, nothing that will ruin anything for you by any stretch of the imagination. McKenna has been home like a day. I think this is still her first day back in Durham. All this crazy work stuff has happened. Her career's in flames. Life is bad for McKenna, as far as she's concerned. And so she's been home, less than 24 hours, and her family's driving her insane. And so, so Jared, her brother-in-law, again, former classmate and brother-in-law and good friend also, because her sister Erica is her best friend, and Jared is married to Erica. And he has to go out to this gala soiree and to support Henry, because he said he would be there because it's this premiere. Okay, that's basically all McKenna knows. She just wants to get out of the house. And so she asked Jared if she can go. And so they have this conversation and all this, and they're just standing around not really knowing what's happening. McKenna is still very much expecting nerdy Henry from high school. And so we're going to pick up there. This is from the Do-Over. There's a posh British voice, by the way, starting this excerpt. I will not be attempting the posh British voice because it is an actual posh British person that we all know, and we'll get to that in a second. I'm not going to attempt it, so just pretend. Okay, and scene. Good evening. A posh British voice boomed and echoed throughout the vast space, but there was no one on the stage. I looked around for the speaker for a moment until Jared tapped my arm and pointed to the screen, which was still being brought into focus. Catherine and I wish we could be there in person with you tonight, but we certainly weren't going to allow the slight inconvenience of impossibility stand in the way of helping to honor our friend, Mr. Bloom. The crowd began to cheer, but in real time seemed to remember they were watching a recorded message and didn't know if the person speaking had factored in pauses for audience reactions. The crowd noise ceased in awkward fashion just about the time the man began speaking again. Impossibility. A low voice muttered to us from just behind Jared, causing us both to jump slightly. Sure, because of course the future King of England can't find a babysitter last minute. We turned to face the source of the voice, and my breath caught in my throat as I glanced up and recognized him as Hank Bloom. Not my old nerdy friend Henry. I hadn't gotten to the point of that unlikely connection making sense yet, not when Henry had been so lanky and awkward with braces and bad skin, just like the rest of us. And the man before me suffered from none of those things. Maybe if he'd been drinking a Fruitopia and talking on his Nokia cell phone while bragging about all the music he'd downloaded on Napster and telling me I had to get the latest version of Encarta, I would have had the sensory clues I needed to fully understand that I'd eaten pizza rolls baked by the mother of one of America's foremost documentarians. People will say anything to avoid having to change out of their sweats, Jared replied in a hushed tone. A smile overtook his face, and Henry's. I think I detected in the dimmed light, and Jared put out his hand. Good to see you, man. You too, Henry replied as they shook. I'm glad you could make it. He faced me, and it's good to see you, Erica. It's been a long time. Jared was left to clear up the Jared was left to clear up the misunderstanding because I hadn't regained the ability to speak just yet. No, Erica couldn't make it. I'm sure you remember He was completely drowned out as the crowd erupted into cheers and applause. The video message ended and the lights in the room got brighter, and all eyes were on the guest of honor, who had been spied by the anxious, geared-up crowd. That's my cue. Henry threw over his shoulder toward Jared as he hurried up to the stage. Catch you in a bit? We'll be here, he replied. Henry stood in front of the screen and faced the welcoming crowd. Wow, Durham, you never cease to amaze me. A staffer handed him a microphone so he no longer had to shout. Thank you for that kind and generous welcome. Thank you, Durham. Thank you. Thank you, full frame. And thank you, of course, to the Duke and Duchess. It means the world to me that they went to all that trouble to record a greeting. He winked in our direction, and I stifled a laugh. And then Jared and I stared at each other, wide-eyed and impressed, as all that information sunk in further. That really was William and Kate in the video, honoring the guy who got excused from ever having to participate in PE class. Not because of asthma or anything respectable like that, but because he had such a bad sweating problem that it came with a doctor's note. As you'll see when we screen the film in a few minutes, he continued on as I snapped back into focus, their generosity carried over into the level of access they gave. I hope you enjoy your time with the royal family as much as I did, and I look forward to meeting you back here after. Applause filled the room again, and Henry returned to where we stood. You guys want to go grab a bite to eat? He asked us, seemingly unaffected by the fact that every eye was still on him as the man who had handed him the mic stepped up to issue specific instructions about the screening portion of the evening. Jared laughed. Isn't your time sort of spoken for? Nah, I've seen the film. I just have to be back for the Q&A afterwards. I have an hour and 53 minutes. There's this great ramen place around the corner. Do you like ramen? The lights were progressively dimming again, but it didn't matter that I couldn't really even see him. I still couldn't stop staring at him. If I'd passed him on the street, I wouldn't have known I'd ever met him. If I'd watched a 6-hour Hank Bloom documentary about Hank Bloom, no matter of letters from the field or artistically zoomed-in shots would have made me think I'd ever seen the man in person. And there I was, staring straight at him, and I still barely had a clue it was my old classmate. And Prince William had just told me it was. I'm not Erica, I stated very awkwardly. I don't know how else I could have cleared up the confusion, but there had to have been a better way than the one I chose. I mean, he was walking away from me, and we were all squeezing past a few hundred of his nearest and dearest who were preparing to be enraptured by his unprecedented glimpse into the House of Windsor. So, yeah, I probably could have waited for ramen. Sorry, what? He whispered over his shoulder as a strangely Americanized but undeniably noble Rule Britannia, performed on guitar and banjo, began bouncing around in the cavernous space. I cleared my throat and tried again as we reached an alcove that led to an exit. I'm not Erica. It was a small space, and we were walking single file, with Henry leading the way and me bringing up the rear. So when he turned his head, I could tell that he could see Jared, but he couldn't see me. I'm so sorry about that, Henry said as we reached the door and he pushed the bar to open it. I guess I'm not as up to date on things. No, Jared and I protested in unison. She's my sister-in-law, Jared continued, and then he seemed to feel the need to make very sure everyone was on the same page. Erica's sister. I'm still married to Erica. This is... McKenna? Henry asked as I became the last person to step out onto the sidewalk. The door shut behind me, and our eyes began adjusting to the darkness of the Durham night. Hey, Henry. Nice to see you. We could still hear the bass of the documentary soundtrack through the closed metal door, and something about the scene, something about standing on a street in downtown Durham with Jared Peterson and Henry Blumenthal, I suppose, took me back to high school. Homecoming. Junior year had been at the Armory. Our football team was number 1 in North Carolina that year, and that apparently justified the additional expense of renting a venue rather than gussying up the gymnasium. My date had been Jimmy Clark Jr., my boyfriend at the time. He had danced with every other girl in our class all night long, and I had spent most of the evening sitting in my formal gown on the very sidewalk on which we now stood. It had been a night of eating corn nuts and playing I Spy with Jared, Henry, and a couple of Jared's friends, and it was probably the most fun I ever had at a high school dance. Wow, Henry muttered, snapping me out of my nostalgic reverie. McKenna Keaton. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. He was giving me no indication as to whether or not the unexpected was welcome or not. I didn't have any reason to think it wouldn't be. As far as I knew, Henry and I had been friendly competitors who had tended to bring out the best in each other. Jared was driven and focused on succeeding too, but he was such a nice guy even back then that you couldn't really look at him as your rival. Even in head-to-head competition, you couldn't help but find yourself rooting for Jared. even as you did all you could to squash him like a bug. But Henry was fun to beat. Henry was a good sport when he lost, but you knew that you were going to have a much more difficult time beating him twice in a row. Be it class elections, chess, model UN, roles in school plays, Henry didn't like losing any more than I did, and that just meant I had to work harder to win. Well, before tonight, I have to say that Henry Blumenthal wasn't a name I'd heard in a while either. Now, Hank Bloom is a name I hear all the time, of course. She didn't know it was you, Jared interjected with a little too much glee and enthusiasm. His glance at me just screamed, #sorry not sorry. And I couldn't help but smile as he made the most out of his opportunity to make me look a little bit ridiculous. She's a big fan of your work, and yet she never put it together that she went to school with you. I shrugged and smiled, my embarrassment minimal, and certainly secondary to the revelations I was trying to take in as my eyes and senses continued to adjust to standing face to face with Henry underneath a dim streetlight. If it's any consolation, I was nearly 30 before I realized the voice of Darth Vader is also the voice of Mufasa. I'm not right about this stuff. And if James Earl Jones himself had told me, McKenna, I am your father. And by the way, Henry Blumenthal has grown into a ruggedly handsome adventurer sort of man who no longer wears oversized t-shirts and loose denim shorts and who looks like he's had his nose broken repeatedly, I would have had to ask him to repeat what he'd said about Henry, and we'd come back to that paternity revelation later after we sorted out the details that really didn't make sense. So there we go. That's just a little bit of an early excerpt from The Do-Over. I'm glad you're loving it already, Caitlin. That delights me. Yes, please. I would love movies of all of them, of course, but I need to see Henry on a screen. I need it. I need him to be real. Let's please make that happen. I'm glad you loved it, Valerie. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm so excited to introduce you to this book. I can't wait. It is on Goodreads now. Valerie asked, why Durham? Great question. The main reason is, it's kind of random. I've never actually been to Durham. I did fly through Raleigh-Durham National Airport one time. That's as much as I've been there. But I needed a city that was a city, to where there would be movie premieres. And McKenna's dad is a college professor. And so we needed all of those amenities, but sort of a small town feel that to McKenna coming back from New York, which is her heart, Durham feels like some nothing town in the middle of nowhere, which of course Durham, North Carolina is not some nothing town, but compared to Manhattan, you can see how it would maybe feel that way to McKenna. So that's how I landed on Durham. And it actually ended up being perfect. This documentary film festival is called Full Frame, and it's sponsored by Duke and different things. And I was looking for just something that would be believable, that Henry would be maybe premiering a movie in his hometown. Full Frame actually happened. It's like one of the largest documentary film festivals in the world, and it happens in Durham every year. So it was and I didn't know that when I picked Durham. And so it was perfect of, okay, the hometown boy comes back to this major film festival every year. And I mean, like I said, he's the hometown golden child. And so of course they love him and they roll out the red carpet. So that was super fun. Yes, please. Maybe that should be our fun hashtag that we use like now all the way through launch and beyond for the Do-Over. We'll do hashtag the Do-Over and hashtag make Henry happen. Let's see. Okay. So, again, sorry, I don't know who people in the group are, but how soon can you read it? It'll be available March 15th of next year, which seems like forever, but that means it'll probably be up on NetGalley maybe as soon as like November, potentially, November, December. So not that far, actually. It's going to be here before we know it. I'm so glad that you are in love with it, Christy. Thank you. I would love to schedule a trip to Durham for a celebratory trip. I really would. Really, really would. Like there's so much like, because this happens at the Durham Armory, this event, and so this ramen place is real, down the street, and I know exactly where the Keaton's house is, and all these things. So I really want to kind of do a tour. Like the book I've really done that for was Wooing Katie McCaffrey. We took a trip and went through her neighborhood and her favorite restaurants and all these different things. And I'm totally going to try to do that for the do-over. I agree. Hashtag make Henry happen is genius. Any tricks to get an arc? Great question, Lydia. Yeah, so I know some of you, when Plot Twist went up on NetGalley, you requested and you didn't get it. I don't actually make those choices, so I can't for sure say. But I do know they're looking for readers who, I mean, as much as obviously we would just love for everybody to, just here, everyone read it. Here's a copy. You get a copy. You get a copy. I would love to do that. But obviously the publisher and we have to make money. We have to make enough money off books to be able to make more books. That's basically end game for me. So they are kind of particular when they put arcs up of wanting it to be people who will be able to promote it, will be able to share it to a relatively large following. So that's not always the case, but I would say, if you have a blog, if you have a decent Instagram following, but I mean, they also it's like if you're like, I'm in Bethany Turner's reader group and all of that, they may consider that. So there's different ways, but just the more ways you can help spread the word, the more likely you probably are to get an arc. But also in book club, I always tried, in book club closest to my house, the reader group, I always try to give out at least 1 or 2 arcs when it happens, like do a giveaway. So be watching for that too. And who knows? Every time I mention Keaton, you think of Alex P. Keaton. I get that. And actually, funny, I think it's cute. McKenna's parents' names, they're Scott and Annie, but Annie's name is not really Annie. It's actually Diane. Her name is Diane Keaton. But Scott has called Diane Annie basically since he met her, because Annie Hall was the big movie when they met, starring Diane Keaton. And even though she wasn't, I mean, they weren't married right away, so not really since they met, but since they got married and she became Diane Keaton, she's basically gone by Annie. That's her nickname. Let's see. Oh, yep. Emily said the same. So, yep. And I will say my character inspiration for Scott Keaton is actually Michael Keaton, not because his last name is Keaton, but I saw him as Michael Keaton. So that was fun too. All the Keatons. Okay, these are great. That's great and helpful, Kim. Thank you. So there you go. So that'll increase your chances as well. Love that. Thanks, Kim. Okay, so we're coming up on an hour. I'm going to wrap this up, but I have a cover to show you. Of course, some of you have already seen it, and I'll be putting it on my pages tomorrow for everybody to see. But I want to go ahead and officially reveal the cover of the Do-Over for the first time. And then I want to talk about it a little because I want to point out a couple things. Okay, yes, Henry is my favorite hero that I've written. This is my favorite cover. It is. And you guys, I've had some good covers. Sarah Hollenbeck, Katie McCaffrey, Hadley Beckett, and Plot Twist all had amazing covers, in my opinion. And this one's my favorite. So, yes, drum roll, please. Drum roll. Okay, let me turn off the banner so that it's not in the way. Let me share the screen, and then we'll talk about it. Here we go. Let's make it bigger for a minute. There is the cover of the Do-Over. You guys, I'm so in love with it. I know that some of you are probably watching on phones, and that's very small, and you'll be able to see it maybe better tomorrow when I post it if you weren't part of the First to Know group. But I'm so in love with it. I love the cover. I love the font. I love everything about it. But I'm going to point out a few particular things. Yes, the cover is on Goodreads too. I was just hoping not too many people saw it before I officially revealed it. But yes, it is, which is very cool. So the first thing you probably notice, of the flowers, it's very, those are North Carolina magnolias. But then in the background, we have the New York skyline. And so it's not just a city skyline. It's very particularly the New York skyline. You can see One World Trade or Freedom Tower. And over there, just kind of above the D in that area, you can see the Statue of Liberty. And the Statue of Liberty plays a huge role, actually, in the book. There's this whole thread of an ancestor of the Keatons her name is Marilla, and there's kind of a mystery to her that ties into, she died in 1820, but there's a mystery of her story that ties into McKenna's story, and Henry, being the master documentarian and historian and all of that he is, helps kind of unearth that. And so the Statue of Liberty is there. And then the other thing that I really want to draw attention to, first of all, that is Henry and McKenna. Like they did such an amazing job, the art team, of listening to what I was saying. Originally, there was a little bit I didn't like about Henry. Like, he was wearing a shirt I didn't think he would ever wear. It was just a white sweatshirt kind of thing, but it was so like, I'm like, Henry would never wear a white sweatshirt. I'm like, give him a sweater with a pullover with a collar. That's what Henry would wear. And they listened to that, and that's not what he wears. That is now what he wears. His hair was a little too blonde and not long enough. They changed his hair. So that is my vision of Henry and McKenna. And then he's also holding, on his right side, there's one of his film cameras. So yeah, so many little touches, and I just love it. I'm glad you like it. I know they always do an amazing job, but this one I think just kind of took the cake. I do too. It's such a nice, I didn't realize those were magnolias when I just thought, oh, those are pretty flowers. It's kind of my first thought. And then she said, yeah, they're magnolias because of North Carolina. And honestly, I teared up because it's all so personalized. Great question, Emily. When I share the cover tomorrow, are you allowed to share it on social media? I would love it if you would share it. Anybody who's willing to share it tomorrow, please do. Help spread the word. Maybe if you share a link or something, feel free to share the Goodreads link, or just the cover is awesome. But I would love that. Yeah, like I said, we've got a long time to this book, and I'm going to have to dive back in. I get to dive back into plot twist, talking about plot twist. But, and I won't be talking about the Do-Over a whole lot for a while, but I want to go ahead and, make sure it's on people's radar. And so the more they see it and adding it to their TBR and potentially going ahead and pre-ordering it, I would love that. So yes, thank you, Emily. I appreciate that. Yes. See, there's so much to it. It's just gorgeous. I love my name. I love my name. No, I love the name being in the yellow and matching. I like the yellows in her dress, and I love everything about it, you guys. I really, really do. I love to make cookies, and this cover makes me want to make those magnolias into cookies. Well, maybe like for a launch party, I should commission you to make some magnolia cookies. I don't know how we would do that or how I would get them, but now I want magnolia cookies. Yes, so many amazing details. I agree. Oops. Oh, thank you, Emily. I love her dress too. I love the dress. My editor and I were both I picture my editor in that dress, but I didn't say that at first because I've never actually met her in person, and so I thought that's a weird thing to say. And then she said, "I totally want to steal McKenna's dress." And I'm like, "It's so you." So, and the font is adorable. I agree. I love that it's an original font, and you can ship. Okay, we may have to figure something out on those magnolia cookies. So yeah, guys, we'll do one more last big look at it. But there it is. And yeah, I love it so much. I can't wait for you guys to meet these characters. And I'm glad that I'm glad you like hearing the behind the scenes and all that. I love sharing the stories of that. I think I know personally, like as a reader, I love hearing stuff like that from authors, and also even movies, behind the scenes featurettes and stuff. It always makes it resonate a little more for me. So I'm glad you enjoy that because I love sharing stuff like that. Yes, I do have a cover reveal graphic. It will be shared on my page, but I'd also be happy to I don't know. Can I do it here? I don't think I can actually post it here. I will, anyone who would like the graphic in order to be able to schedule it that way or anything, text me and just say, send me the graphic, and I will send you the graphic, 970-387-7811. But otherwise, it will be on my Instagram and my Facebook tomorrow, and you can feel free to share it from there. I know, magnolia cookies. I'm with you, Christy. I'm like, I want them now. That was amazing, Vicki. I'm glad you enjoyed the cover reveal. So the last thing we're going to do is I'm going to draw a winner. If you have commented at all tonight, you can win. I'll send you a signed copy of Plot Twist, an ironic sticker, and I'll also send you a bookmark, and who knows what else. I don't know. I may send you lots of bookmarks. I don't know what I'll send you. You never know. You never know what you'll get. So, yes. Yeah, so magnolia cookies, launch part. I love you guys. I get my texts from you guys on my watch, just in case you ever think like the texting thing isn't really me or whatever. I just want to show you, there's the proof. Those of you who just texted me that you want the graphic, I'm reading those texts now, and I will send them to you as soon as we're done. Surprises are always fun, Sue. I completely agree. So, need to find magnolia cookies when I read it like I had Starbucks. Yeah, did you all see that when Lydia did that? That was amazing to have Starbucks recreate Olivia's drink. That blew my mind, and I love it so much. And we should like make that a thing. I'm so glad you had a fun evening and that you enjoyed the reading. I'll tell you guys this one last thing. Sorry, I know I always say I'm done and then I keep talking, but I really am wrapping up here. But this will be in my post tomorrow. But because I just share 4 quick things to know about the do-over. And so I talk just a little bit about Henry, and I talk a little bit about McKenna. But one of the things I shared was that there's a kiss in this book that I may never recover from, and McKenna may never recover from. And it takes place, you guys, like, it's my favorite kiss I've ever written, I think. I don't know. Hadley and Max are still in the running on this one. I'll have to think that through, but it's right up there. but as far as location, hands down, my favorite kiss. Will and Katie had the top of the Empire State Building. That was pretty good too. But anywho, I get so distracted. I distract myself so much. But their kiss that I love so much takes place on the 17th floor of the Plaza Hotel, at a window overlooking Central Park. And it is magical. Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay. So Kim was asking where Lydia's coffee, her Starbucks post was. And it was in her story. So post it in these comments after the live. That would be awesome. And also I was going to say, we just need to, I don't know, I need to share that more widespread. I need to get with you, Lydia, how we can make that a thing. Cause I loved that. I loved that you did that. I love all that, like just doing something different to promote the book. I love it so much. I love you too, Emily. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to do the drawing for the winner and then we will be out of here. But this has been so much fun. I really do genuinely love every opportunity I get to spend time with you guys like this. So thank you for being a part of it. Let's go ahead and we'll click on our giveaway tool. I know there's more than 20 entries. Oh no, it's 20. Okay. So can we see it? We can see it. Let's adjust this. Okay. So let's see who our winner is. Okay, we're going to draw again because as much as I appreciate Verbose Juice's participation here tonight, that is my son, and I can just give him a signed copy. So let's draw another winner real quick. But I do appreciate you being here, Ethan. Okay, let's see. Dun, da, da, da. Janet, if I don't know if I've already sent you a copy. Do you already have Plot Twist? I don't know if you actually do. I know you've read it, and I know you have the arc. I don't know. Anyway, so let me know if you would rather have any other book. Let me know if you'd rather have a copy of The Do-Over when it comes out, and you're willing to wait till March. We can do that too. So just let me know. But I'll send you stuff. So thank you so much, everybody. Yep, Janet just let me know. You know how to get in touch with me all the ways. And yep, I could definitely give you the audiobook of Plot Twist if you would prefer that. So just let me know your preference and it's yours. Thank you guys so much for being here. I had a blast. I look forward to sharing more with you about The Do-Over in the coming days. Thank you for all the support of Plot Twist in recent days. And if you requested the graphic, I will send it to you within the next 5 to 10 minutes. So you'll be getting that. So thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great night.